All right, we're talking about the Clash, the LA Coliseum. I already have a video recorded breaking down last year's event. So if you think I'm kind of being a bit light on talking about last year's event in this video, you can watch the one I recorded last week. That is in the comments below. And I think that does a great job breaking down that race. I want to focus primarily on Martinsville. In this event, we can touch on some of the shorter tracks that we went to later in the year. We can look at Phoenix, but nothing you're taking from Phoenix is going to work there. You know, you can look, I mean, I want to focus primarily on Martinsville because, you know, look, New Hampshire was way middle of the year. They're going way faster. They're dealing with way more stuff than that. You can argue the Roval, but they're still going way faster. Like Martinsville and last year's Clash is it for me. We can look at Martinsville 1, but I want to specifically look at Martinsville 2 because that was the most recent race we went to with a similar type of setup. Now, yes, I understand people are always like, well, Brandon, you know, it's not a 1-to-1 setup ratio. I understand that. But when we look at how Martinsville broke through, which we just ran, okay, we're just a few months removed from that event, you have to imagine, because these cars don't get to test, okay, you have your simulations and stuff, but you're going off of what you saw last year at the Clash to start the year off, and yet again, a lot of asterisks by that because it was the first time under, like, green competition that we saw these cars and these teams, you know, running, or with these next-gen cars. Martinsville 2, throughout the year, you were able to see what was breaking, what wasn't breaking, dealing with overheating issues in terms of how hot or cold your brakes are, in terms of how just wear is happening on the car and everything. So let's take a look at Martinsville 2, if I can find this on the screen. Let's go ahead and break it down. Let's go ahead and review now. We're going to see a lot of correlations in terms of the short track package that we saw in the Clash last year, in both Martinsville races, at Richmond, at everything. And the main takeaway is you can't pass, okay? That's just how it is, okay? And what I mean by that is, yes, Larson starts on the pole and we see him get passed at some point in this race. I believe it's out of the second stage, if I'm not mistaken. No, it is in the first stage, so it's right before the end of the first stage. Because I remember that everybody's really concerned about Larson being on the pole here because you just look at Larson's numbers at Martinsville and everybody's scared to play him. Anyway, when we look at this here, for the most part, like, look, for the first 8 laps out of a restart, you can not necessarily discount him, but at that point, if you're not the leader, the leader is gone, okay? When you're the leader, you start in the inside lane, you're basically clearing the guy on your outside most of the time halfway through the center, if not out of the exit of the second corner. Okay, at that point, second and third place are side by side, leader's pulling away. So, outside of the leader, I don't really bother looking at how these people are doing. Now, granted, we're not seeing a lot of changes here. First 3 laps of Martinsville are probably equivalent to like the first 6 at the Clash, just because that's such a smaller track. You don't have a great discrepancy in terms of speed once you're going down straightaway down to the corner. And what I mean by that is when we look at the Clash's race in the previous video, you would see that, yeah, some of the numbers would change because you guys are just stuck side by side. We also saw that they would get really stupid and kind of just throw it into the corner and kind of not necessarily pile into one another, but they just kind of get gridlocked to where they can't really go. And when they're coming across the start-finish line, you'll have guys, you know, barely just nudging each other out, maybe on the outside, taking a position away, then it's on the next lap. The guy on the inside barely nudges them for a position. So in terms of when we're looking at restarts, and so at Martinsville, you could actually probably bump that down more to like being the first like 2 to 3 laps, because after that point, everybody's single file. But everybody is where they're running. You go through this entire field, you don't see a change anywhere. We're talking anywhere. Ain't nobody passing, okay? So we get through, we get into a run, we get into some traffic, and that is where we start seeing some passes here. You start seeing some passes for the mid-pack positions. You know, you see Noah Gragson going from 19th to 18th. You know, hey, didn't I just mention Noah Gragson earlier in the last video? What the? Oh, Ty Gibbs is going to win the Rookie of the Year championship. Really? Like, what? I would highly disagree on that. It is much closer. It is a pick'em, to be honest with you. The fact that nobody is giving Gragson any running room to win the Rookie of the Year championship just shows that nobody actually watches these races. Anyway, moving on. Last rant about Rookie of the Year, I promise you, until a live show. Yes, for the most part, yeah, you see Chase Elliott pass Larson for the lead, but look, for the most part, we're all just riding. Okay, we see Larson start fading through the field, but you got to remember at this point, like we're 90 laps in a race at Martinsville. This is equivalent to like 200 laps at the Coliseum. Okay, so we're not going to have this amount of tire wear. We're not going to have these long runs at the Clash. Okay, so in terms of where these guys are, in terms of where you're at on a restart, like, look, nobody's moving here. Okay, we go to the next restart here. Coming out of this stage caution, let's look at the next. We're at 140. We'll keep it at 200 here. Is anybody passing? Is anybody? I feel like a Where's Waldo cartoon here. Find Waldo. Find a pass. Anywhere. In the field. Find a pass. I don't see it at all. Wait, my bad. I see Chastain going from 9th to 10th. He lost the position here. Okay, who is that? And we have Daniel Suarez going from 8th to 9th here. Okay, looking through the rest of the field, we are absolutely gridlocked. You know, just how it is. Wait, Ty Gibbs, 26th. Gregson, 25th. Hey, they're racing side by side. A lot closer than people want to think. I don't know why I'm so tilted by that. I think that's just a dumb take. I've read so many dumb DFS articles this year, and I already listened to a lot of things where guys just talk about like just random shit to talk about to fill time, and they just talk about Ty Gibbs and Noah Gragson. Like, when you guys ever cared about Rookie of the Year? Did you guys care about Rookie of the Year when Kevin Conway won it? Like, why are we all of a sudden putting so much effort on Rookie of the Year? Okay, so BJ McLeod is out of the race. We're seeing some guys pass at this point, kind of in the back of the field. You know, at this point we're kind of in traffic. At this point we got quite a lot of wear on the tires. But hey, look at this. The top 20, not even moving. There ain't nothing going on here. We get a slight movement from 17th. William Byron, who was running 16th there this time. It was William Byron was 16th. Where are we at? Micah McDowell held on to 16th for the whole stage, basically. Then you get William Byron trying to get around Micah McDowell for this whole stage. Finally does it right at the end. We go into this. We get stupid. We wreck right coming out of the stage caution. So, I mean, that might be what happens at the Coliseum, but I don't like to necessarily look at things in terms of wrecks. I like to look at drivers or how races can progress in terms of green flag situation. That's just how it goes. So we come out of this caution here, which is basically another restart, and we get another yellow. But let me move this to the side so you can see it all. We come green. Lap 281. Are we seeing a lot of passing here? No, we're not. No, we're not. And the reason why this is because unlike previous cars or previous iterations of Cup cars and stuff, we have 4 individual corners here, okay? On the old ones, and I'm speaking very loosely here, but in the grand scheme of things, you basically had 3 points of contact on the old car. You had the 2 front ends, or you had the 2 front end tires, which work independently of each other. Yes, they steer and input what the driver is getting, but in terms of how it reacts to stuff, how you set the car up, how you set the springs up, how you set the camber up, the caster up, how you set everything up on those corners were independent of each other, and it was made to give you the most amount of grip whenever the car would lean in to the corner, whatever the case was. The rear end was locked. I understand, yes, you can adjust springs, you can adjust sway bars, you can adjust everything like that, but for the most part it was locked with the rear axle, and that would work together. So if somebody bumped into you, and lifted your tires off the ground, not spun you out, but like got into you and kind of shoved you up the track, that's why it would happen, because the rear end was both of those wheels were working alongside each other. What happened to one affected the other. Okay, now that we're running a transaxle, we have 4 independent corners of these cars. And I talked about this in the last year video when I was like, the next gen car is not ready. The fact that you can just park this car on the bottom, and even if you get pounded by somebody, like, because you have 4 points of contact now, it just sits down. It's like I have no idea what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to think of words to describe it. Like, you can have somebody like get on your bumper and attempt to lift your tires up, but hey, in a situation it might just want to lift the left rear up. If you're entering a corner and they're kind of pushing you on your left rear, yeah, it'll lift the left rear up, but it's not lifting that right rear up. it's keeping the car, on the ground. So you don't see guys like being thrown up the track a lot, unless when you look specifically at the end of this race, when guys really started moving people out of the way late in the race. Like, for example, the race for the lead here at the end, and we're not even going to talk about the Ross Chastain move because he had to do that because, hey, guess what? You can't pass. But when you get to this point here and this restart, look at this. So this is when, at this point, this is the only passing we saw the entire day, and it was because everybody was racing to make it to the championship. Okay? That's just how it was. You had absolutely no shits being given by Bell, moving guys out of the way, moving people out of the way for the lead. You have I think it was Briscoe trying to hold on. Yeah, Briscoe started first here, and he goes from first to falling all the way to 10th. You have Chastain doing his stuff, getting wild, getting a little bit loony around that wall. But yeah, this is the only time you have people passing because people are being shoved out of the way. Cole Custer, absolutely gets moved and shoved out of the way and stuff. Like, that was the only way to pass people. And this wasn't just like regular, like, we're just going to bump you into the corner. Go back, look at it. These guys are absolutely racing it's a championship. Are we going to see that at the LA Coliseum? I think now that drivers understand that this is what you need to move people out of the way, we might see it at the same time. It's going to be really, really hard to get to the leader, okay? Look at this restart. Leader not being contested. Second place not being contested. Third place, fourth place not being contested. Everybody is running where you start. It's just how it is. This car blows. This car absolutely blows, and people complain about the Gen 4. They're like, no, the Gen 4 was ugly. That twisted sister profile, kind of weird to look at. I'm like, you guys are morons. That racing was awesome. Anyway, you can't pass here at Martinsville. You can't pass at the LA Coliseum. You can't pass in general. Okay, so the reason why I preface this by watching the old video or watching the other video on the Clash is because I fully believe that is how everything I said in that race or in that video stands here. This is just an addition to that, being backed up by what I see in the final race at Martinsville last year. Not final, second to last, but in the second to last race at Martinsville. You can't pass in these cars. I understand they're making some aerodynamic changes. They're making some changes to the underbody of the car. But for the most part, it is really difficult to make these cars race good on a short track when you design them this way. Like, the only way to not have them race this crappy is to go back to the old type of car. And they're not going to do that. They're going to stay with the independent rear suspension. And that is the point of, that's what's causing the issue. You're not going to be able to pass here. And so, in terms of looking at the Clash this week and stuff, I'm going to look at the practice sessions. Going to be looking at how people run in their heat specifically, and I'm probably also. Secondly, don't play a lot. I understand it is tempting to go in here and be like, yeah, bro, I'm going to put in. It's only $10. I'm going to put in 20 lineups here. Don't do that. Don't waste it. Don't blow your load here. Okay, this is the first race of the year, first slate of the year, at a bad track. At a track that can most likely and will go green for the majority of it, to where we see two, if not one lap leader in this race. I don't think this is worth a slate to just go crazy on, okay? Save that for Daytona. Save that for later in February. But just be a bit hesitant. I know it's excited to be back. I know it's cool to be back, but let's just pump the brakes a little, okay? We got a lot of races to go, way more fun races to build lineups for. This is going to be a bit frustrating, especially with the slow window between building lines and the LCQ. This is a situation where I don't want to necessarily be digging around with like 15 lineups in like 30 minutes and stuff like that. Live show will be live. I got it already posted on there, so feel free to join me on Sunday before the Clash, and I will see you guys in the next video where I'm talking about Daytona and stuff like that. So I will see you guys then. If you want to, like I said, if you want to join me, or support me, support Pearce, join the Patreon. And I will see you guys later. Thank you very much.